Chapter 55. Karen wanted to stop her, but she couldn't, because Faye would not buy any of her excuses. As for now, Kevin was driving the car with her sitting in the passenger seat, while Faye was sitting on the back seat admiring the car. Hey, I told you. You are lucky though you don't want to admit this. For you to have a man that can afford this luxury car, you must have done a lot of good deeds in your last life. Karen really wanted to shut Faye's mouth up, and even wanted to throw her out of the window. But she couldn't do anything too bad in front of Kevin, so she smiled helplessly at Faye's remarks. In fact, she had scolded that damned girl more than 1,000 times in her heart. Faye had acknowledged Karen's angry looks, but she just ignored them and kept talking. Sitting in the back seat of the car, Faye leaned forward slightly and asked, Mr. Kyle, Karen, and you have been registered for so long. When are you going to hold a wedding? Hearing Faye's question, Karen answered first, wedding is just a formality. It does not mean too much, and I think there's nothing wrong with our situation now. Because they had been registered for a long time, but Kevin had never mentioned having a wedding, and Karen had never thought about it too, so she thought that Kevin must share the same sentiments. Karen thought that, indeed, she meant what she said earlier. A wedding ceremony would not mean much to them now. Faye became anxious after hearing this. Are you fool? Both of you have secretly registered your marriage, but you haven't held a wedding ceremony, then no one will know that you are Kevin's wife. If he finds another woman in the future and publicly announces it, you will be called a mistress instead. Last time, Karen was engaged with Charlie. As they did not make their relationship public, Charlie was swooped away. And Karen was the ultimate victim in the end. The reason why Faye brought up the wedding topic at this time was to remind Karen not to repeat her mistakes. Faye, stop it. Karen understood why Faye brought this up, but she didn't want to be reminded of her pain in the past. She was convinced that Kevin would not turn into someone like Charlie. Kevin, who had been driving without saying a word, suddenly interrupted and said, Karen, I'm really sorry. I always thought that registering for our marriage is enough, but I forgot the significance of holding a wedding ceremony. I'll seriously consider the wedding plan next. To hold a wedding ceremony was common sense for most people, but for Kevin, who leads a very busy life, it was not within his consideration. If Faye didn't mention it today, he didn't even consider planning a wedding ceremony to publicly announce that Karen was his wife. After Kevin spoke, Faye did not continue. She was just a little angry at Karen. How could she forget the pain she had experienced and allowed for a similar case to possibly happen again? When they were about to arrive at Faye's place, Faye spoke again. Mr. Kyle, could you please stop the car by the side? I want to go to the convenience store to buy something. Okay. Kevin slowed down and pulled over. Before the car stopped, Faye said, Girl, I'm not feeling so well. Please help me get some sanitary pads from the convenience store. She had to use this excuse to send Karen away for a while. Faye didn't care how Kevin looked at her. He was not her man anyway. As soon as Karen left, Faye's expression instantly became serious. Mr. Kyle, can I have a word with you? Kevin looked up at Faye from the rearview mirror and nodded politely. Miss Reed, please go ahead. Faye tilted her head and looked outside. As she saw that Karen had already entered the convenience store, she said, Karen is a good girl. Please cherish her and don't let her get hurt again. Kevin nodded. I know. Faye continued. Mr. Kyle, I don't know why you used a different identity and went out with Karen. I don't want to investigate this matter. As long as you treat Karen well, I will put this matter in my heart and never mention a word to her. Kevin looked back at Faye and said sincerely, Thank you. Faye took a deep breath and said, Karen used to be a very silly girl. When others treated her a little better, she would treat them even better. In the past 3 years, she had changed a lot, but no one could get through her easily anymore. So please don't hurt her. Faye still wanted to tell Kevin many things about Karen, but she finally stopped. Because she always felt that Kevin seemed to know everything about Karen's past, and she also felt that Kevin seemed to be pretending and put up a nice front for everyone. After sending Faye away, Karen could breathe a sigh of relief. If she let the girl stay for any second longer, Faye could talk about anything at all. Kevin drove home. The two of them did not talk along the way. Karen wanted to talk to him several times, but when she saw his cold expression, she swallowed her words back. Kevin was really a man that could show different characters. Sometimes his gentleness could melt people's hearts. Sometimes he was as cold as an ice cube, preventing anyone from approaching him. It took them more than half an hour to go home. After they stepped into the room, Kevin changed his cold attitude as he turned around and held Karen against the door. Ah! Karen screamed with fear. She panicked, yet anticipated what he would do next. However, Kevin just looked at her quietly. He stared at her for a long time, and then he asked, Karen, do you want to date me? I don't. Don't listen to Faye's words. Karen shook her head like a rattle and tried her best to deny that she wanted to talk about dating. Kevin watched her gently close her cherry-red lips, and he pushed her head closer towards him, pretending to kiss her. Karen instinctively closed her eyes and raised her head when she saw his handsome face. However, Kevin did not move forward. She slowly opened her eyes and looked at Kevin, who was staring at her thoughtfully. Why did this man mislead her? It was really annoying. You really don't want to consider being in a relationship? Kevin repeated the question. Chapter 56. If Kevin wants to be in a relationship with me, just say it directly, Karen said to herself. Although this behavior was very childish, she was still willing to be with him. But words can mean nothing if no actions are taken. Karen shook her head in a reserved manner. I was worried that I may not have time to accompany you. I don't want to let you down. Now that you've said that you don't want to date, I'm relieved. Kevin let go of her and turned to change his shoes gracefully. Then he walked calmly into the study. That's it? This idiot? How could he tease her like this? Karen wanted to pounce on him and bite him, telling him this was not what she wanted. She really didn't know whether Kevin was an idiot or just pretended to be low EQ. Sometimes his words warmed her heart for a long time, and sometimes what he said would make her speechless. Woof, woof, woof. Momo had been here for a long time, but its owner did not notice it, so Momo had to draw attention. Karen shook the gift box in her hand and deliberately teased it. Aunt Faye bought this for me, not for you. Woo, Momo cried sadly. Momo, don't be angry. Karen touched her head while coaxing it. Come here and unwrap the gifts with me and see what Aunt Faye brought for me, okay? It was a very delicate gift box. As she opened it, she said, Momo, what do you think Auntie will give me? She ripped open the wrapping papers. After opening the box, she was instantly shocked. The exquisite gift box was actually filled with condoms of large and small sizes, and there were also different flavors. Karen thought that Faye had forgotten that incident, but she didn't expect that Faye would buy them and send them to her as gifts, which made her surprised even more. There was also a note in the box. Hey girl, enjoy the most primitive happiness with your man. Karen. Kevin's low and sexy voice suddenly echoed behind her, which scared her. Her hand trembled and almost knocked over the gift box. She hurriedly held the box in her arms and said in a panic, What's the matter? If Kevin saw what she was holding, what would he think of her? She wanted to have good days with him, so she did not want to leave such a bad impression in his heart. If you want to consider a relationship, tell me. I will take the time to accompany you, he said and turned back to the study. Karen didn't want to pursue a relationship. She never even thought about it at all. It was clear that he brought this up first. Wait, how come she became the one who wanted a date, while he was the one who's asked to do it? Karen was agitated. She wanted to rush into the study to teach Kevin a good lesson, but she did not dare to do so. Karen was not in the mood to deal with Kevin. At present, the most important thing was to deal with the gift in her hand. She crept back to her room and hid these things in a place that she thought was very secluded. She had just hidden it when her phone rang. She glanced at it briefly and saw that the number looked familiar. It seemed to be Charlie. She had talked with Charlie before, telling him not to disturb her anymore, but Charlie didn't seem to listen to her, and even tried to kidnap her. If Kevin hadn't arrived in time, she couldn't imagine what would happen next. Fortunately, she had Kevin. After thinking for a while, Karen answered the phone. From the other end came Charlie's apologetic voice. Karen, I have to apologize to you. I don't know anything about the kidnapping thing today. It was Duncan who made up his mind to bring you to me. Charlie, you don't have to apologize to me, as long as you don't disturb my life anymore. Not caring if Charlie did order Duncan, Karen really didn't care anymore. She just wanted Charlie to disappear from her life. She didn't want to see him. She didn't want to be reminded of the bad things in the past, and she didn't want Kevin to misunderstand her either. Karen, although I'm not the one who instructed Duncan, I've always been thinking about you. Charlie began to sweet talk, which gave Karen goosebumps. She said, That's enough, Charlie. You're disgusting. I don't buy your words. Karen? Charlie paused and asked, Do you know Leo Kyle? Karen snorted and said, Leo Kyle? I'm just an employee. How could I know Rovio Corp's family members? You think too highly of me. Charlie asked, You really don't know him? Last time, Silas Campbell, the director of the Public Security Bureau of Chatterton Town, went to the police station to pick Karen up. This time, Silas Campbell personally ordered to investigate the criminal responsibility of Duncan and others. Originally, such a small matter could be dealt with a fight. As long as he made a phone call, Duncan and the others would be released. Who knew that suddenly it had become a criminal case? Charlie thought about the matter for a while, but he didn't expect that Kevin, who had no strong influence, could have Silas Campbell to get involved in this. He asked someone to investigate secretly, and the police revealed some clues, which was directed at Rovio Corporation's Leo Kyle. How could Leo Kyle get involved in Karen's matter? Charlie thought twice, and thought about the scandalous news that Leo Kyle was a playboy. Then, Leo Kyle was likely to have a crush on Karen. Would Kevin send his wife to Leo Kyle's bed to bribe him? Charlie thought it was extremely possible. Karen should have belonged to him. How could he let Kevin take advantage of her? Karen didn't know what Charlie wanted to say, so she was confused. Charlie, don't talk nonsense with me. I'm telling you clearly that I don't know anyone. When she said this, Kevin pushed the door open and came in. He happened to hear Karen talking about Leo Kyle. Why did she mention Leo Kyle? Could it be? He looked at Karen sharply. The phone call with Charlie was caught by Kevin. Although it was nothing, she was still worried that Kevin would misunderstand. She quickly hung up the phone and looked at him with a smile. Faye called and asked us if we are home? But her explanation was too far-fetched. Chapter 57. Through his glasses there was a hint of anger flashed Kevin's eyes, and he said in a deep voice, I don't care who he is. Blacklist that man's number and never meet him again. Kevin was worried about Karen, who's too naive. She was deeply hurt by Charlie and still couldn't get over him, so he must help her get over the past relationship, which was not worth any of her feelings. Kevin's words were very overbearing, but Karen did not resent him for what he said. She obediently took out her mobile phone and blacklisted Charlie's phone number. Then Karen showed her phone to Kevin. Have a look. I've already banned his number and I will not see him again in the future. Good. Kevin looked at Karen and an idea flashed in his mind. I forgot about one more thing, and now I want to make it up to you. Can I? What is it? Do you need my help? Karen did not know what Kevin meant and asked him curiously. Yes, only you can help me. Kevin approached Karen and lifted her head. Karen was a little angry. Kevin, this kind of childish game can only play once. It will be really childish to play it again. She thought that Kevin would pretend to kiss her and end up not kissing her again. Before she could finish her words, Kevin kissed her fiercely. Their breath became one as they entangled their lips. The longer they kissed, the more addicted Kevin became. His kisses were so dense as if he wanted to make Karen a part of him. Karen's arms and legs became weak, and she had to hold tightly to the corner of Kevin's shirt. At this moment, she was willing to let Kevin bring her into another fantasy. The smoldering kiss was stopped abruptly. Kevin pushed Karen gently out of his arms while she was still enjoying the kiss. Kevin smiled slowly. I have work to do. You should rest. Karen paused for a moment before she came to her senses. What the hell? Why is he always like that? It suddenly came to her mind that when Kevin said he forgot about one thing, he meant that he forgot to kiss her when he came back from his business trip today. She pursed her lips that was still lingering with Kevin's warmth. Karen suddenly felt sad and contemplated if she could have this beautiful moment forever. Karen will not stop worrying as long as Charlie is still in North Hill City and the issues of his company were still not settled. She was so afraid that days like these would disappear and everything would return to its original state. Somewhere in a luxury suite in a 5-star hotel in North Hill City, Charlie smashed a few mobile phones furiously. Last night, Karen not only hung up his phone, but also blacklisted his number. Is she not going to be merciful towards him? Does this mean he will have no other choice but to let Karen become Kevin's woman? No, no. Charlie shouted in his heart. He would never let Kevin win. He would definitely get Karen back. If Karen insisted to stay by Kevin's side, he would use mean ways to win her back. Anyway, he would not let Kevin off lightly. Kevin doesn't deserve Karen. Duncan, Charlie shouted. Then, he remembered that Duncan had been taken to the police station but he couldn't get him out. He was really angry that there was nothing he could do. Another person who replaced Duncan temporarily ran in. Young master, what can I do for you? Have you made an appointment with the actress named Polaris? It doesn't matter if the actress is Leo Kyle's girlfriend. Charlie will not let any chances go, no matter how minimal the chances are. The man who took over Duncan's job was called Lincoln Hill. He was sent by Bernard, Charlie's father. He was more matured than Duncan. He said, Young master, that woman had promised to see us, but she will tell us where to meet. It will take about half an hour to reach there. Charlie stood up and said, We'll go right away. After wasting so much time, he couldn't wait to see Leo Kyle. He wanted to obtain cooperation with Leo Kyle as soon as possible and prove to his father that he was capable of. Charlie, when he was walking to the lobby of the hotel, a gentle voice called for Charlie. After hearing the voice, Charlie turned around and frowned slightly. You are not feeling well. You need to have a good rest at home. Why do you come here? Charlie, the woman walked towards him and helped him with his suit jacket. You have been away for so long. We all worried about you, so Dad asked me to come and take care of you. You don't have to come and take care of me. Go back and rest. I have something to do. Charlie grabbed her hand and said in a gentle voice. Charlie, I know what is the real purpose of you coming to the Chatterton town. The woman smiled bitterly. Her voice was gentle and angelic, and her looks made people feel pity for her. A woman like you, what do you know? Charlie said grumpily. She looked like Karen, which made him reluctant to say mean things to her every time. Charlie, I know I'm useless. I failed to bring our child to this world and couldn't. At this point, tears welled up in the woman's eyes. A drop of tear trickled down from the corners of her eyes, making her look even more pitiful. Why are you crying? I didn't blame you. Charlie looked helpless and reached out to hug the woman. The woman raised her head and blinked her teary eyes. She opened her lips slightly and said, Charlie, you are the eldest son of the family. You must have your own child. So no matter what method you want to try, I am willing to help you. Christine, do you really think so? Even if that person is Charlie was happy and surprised. After this woman's miscarriage, she could never be pregnant again, and she will not be able to give birth to a child for the family. She cannot blame him for trying to find someone else to continue the family line. Christine Daly snuggled in his arms. There are some things that may not be effective if you do it. Maybe when I do it, there may be different results. I am her sister, and I know her temper better than you. You mean? Charlie did not dare to believe that what Christine said. If that's the case, he would be more confident to get Karen back. I will go and see Karen. Christine used this powerful trick to win Charlie. Christine, you're so nice to me. Charlie hugged Christine tightly, as if he can see Karen waving at him. He kissed Christine's forehead. Christine, as long as you can help me, I promise I will treat you well.